What up, peeps? Oh boy. Boyle. We are cruising through our book. We have 4 chapters. We have 431. What's the last chapter? What's the last chapter? 34, 31, 32, 33, 34. We have 4 chapters to go. I say we get 2 done tonight, 2 done Sunday, then done, son. And then Monday, we could start The Power of 6. So I say we power through 2 chapters tonight, 2 chapters Sunday. It's getting exciting. I don't care what you say. It's a great book. And I think I think I've either said or alluded to this before. If there were moral books like this when I was a teenager, I think I probably would have done a lot more reading. I did a lot of reading for what I had to do at school, but I didn't do a ton of reading outside of school. I don't think I really did a lot of outside reading until I got into college, but I read a lot of D&D and fantasy and all that kind of stuff, but not a lot of, novels and such on my own. But anyways, all right, so chapter 31. Another roar cuts through the night air. Okay, and what happened? They were in the school. They thought they were doing a sneaky peek getting out of the school, and they didn't because the Magadorians were waiting for them. And then they went back in the school. Henry got stabbed in the side, I think. 6 created a lightning storm. Oh, John got cut on his head when they were going out. He got thrown into the trophy case. Yes. So, all right. So another roar cuts through the night air. Through the walls of the school, a roar makes my blood turn cold. The ground begins to rumble under the footsteps of the beast that must now be on the loose. I shake my head. I saw firsthand how big they were during the flashbacks of the war on Lorien. For your friends' sakes and ours, 6 says, we better get the hell out of this school while there's still time. They'll destroy the entire building trying to get to us. We nod to one another. Our only hope is to get to the woods, Henry says. Oh, what? What? Stella's yelling at me. Whatever that thing is, we might be able to escape if we can stay invisible. 6 nods. Just keep hold of my hands. Needing no other motivation than that, Henry and I each take a hand. As quietly as we can, Henry says. The hallway is dark and silent. We walk with a quiet urgency, moving as swiftly as we can while making little noise. Another roar, and in the middle of it, another roar begins. We stop. Not 1 beast, but 2. We continue to enter the gymnasium and no sign of scouts. When we reach the very center of the court, Henry stops. I look over, but can't see him. Why are we stopped? I whispered. Shh, she says. He says, listen. I strain to listen, but hear nothing aside from the steady hum of blood filling my ears. The beasts have stopped moving, Henry says. So what? Shh, he says. There's something else out there. Then I hear it too. Slight, high-pitched yipping. Sounds as though it's coming from small animals. The sounds are muffled, though obviously growing louder. What the hell, I ask. Something begins banging on the stage hatch. The hatch we are hoping to escape through. Turn on your lights, he says. I let go of 6's hands and I snap them on and aim them towards the stage. Henry looks down at the end of the shotgun barrel. The hatch The hatch bounces up as if something is trying to force itself through, but lacks the strength to do it. The weasels, I think, the stout-bodied little creatures that the guys in Athens were afraid of. One of them hits the hatch so hard that it breaks away from the stage and rattles across the floor. So much for thinking they lack strength. Two of them come bustling forth, and upon catching sight of us, come racing our way so swiftly that I can hardly make them out. Henry stands watching with the gun aimed, as an amused grin on his face. Their paths diverge, and both leap about 20 feet away, one jumping at Henry, the other coming at me. Henry fires once, and the weasel explodes and covers him with its blood and guts. And just as I'm about to rip apart the second with telekinesis, it's snatched in midair from Six's unseen hand and spiked to the ground like a football, killing it instantly. Henry cocks the shotgun. Well, that wasn't so bad, he says, and before I can respond, the entire wall, along with the stage, is smashed in by the fist of a beast. It draws back and it punches again, smashing the stage to smithereens and exposing the night sky. The impact pushes both Henry and me backwards. Run, Henry yells, and he immediately unloads every shot of the shotgun into the beast. They have no effect upon it. The beast leans forward and roars so loudly that I can feel my clothes flutter. A hand reaches out and grabs hold of me, turning me invisible. The beast charges ahead, moving straight for Henry, and I'm gripped with terror at what it might do. No, I scream. To Henry, get to Henry. I twist under Six's grip, finally grabbing hold of her and pushing her away. I become visible, and she stays hidden. The beast surges towards Henry, who stands firm. Who stands firm and watches it come. Out of bullets, out of options. Get to him, I scream again. Get to him, Six. Go to the woods, she yells back. All I can do is watch. The beast must stand 30 feet tall, maybe 40, towering over Henry. It roars, pure wrath in its eyes. Its muscled and bulging fist rushes high in the air, so high that it breaks straight through the rafters and the roof of the school gymnasium. And then it falls, speeding down with such swiftness that it becomes a blur, like the blades of a spinning fan. I cry out in horror, knowing that Henry is about to be crushed. I can't look away. Henry, seeming tiny, standing there with the shotgun limply at his side. When the fist of the beast is a split second from him, Henry disappears. The fist crashes through the gymnasium floor, the wood splintering. The impact sending me crashing into the stands 20 feet away. The beast turns to me, blocking from view the place where Henry had just stood. Henry, I yell. The beast roars so loud that any response might have come is drowned out. It takes one step towards me. To the woods, Six had said. Go to the woods. I stand and I run as fast as I can to the back of the gym, where the beast had just broken through. I turn to see if the beast is following. It is not. Perhaps Six has done something to divert its attention. All I know is I'm on my own now, alone. I leap over the pile of rubble and I sprint away from the school, running as hard as I can for the woods. The shadows swarm around me, following like villainous wraiths. I know that I can outrun them. The beast roars and I hear another wall crumble. I reach the trees and swarming shadows seem to have disappeared. I stop and listen. The trees sway under the light breeze. There is wind here. I've escaped whatever dome the Magadorians have created. Something warm collects at the waistband of my pants. The cut I suffered at Mark James has reopened on my back. The school silhouette is faint from where I stand. The gymnasium is gone, a pile of brick. The beast shadow stands tall in the rubble of the cafeteria. Why hasn't it run after me? And where is the second beast we all heard? The beast fist falls again. Another room demolished. Mark and Sarah are there somewhere. I told them to go back, and I realized how foolish it was. I didn't anticipate the beast destroying the school as if it knew where I was. I have to do something to get the beast away. I take a deep breath to gather my strength, and as soon as I do, I take the first step. Something hard hits me on the back of the head. I fall face first into the mud. I touch where I've been hit, and my hand is covered in blood, drips of it falling from my fingertips. I turn around and I see nothing at first, and then it steps out of the shadows and grins. A soldier. This is what they look like. Taller than the scouts, 7, maybe 8 feet tall. Its muscles bulging a black ragged cloak, beneath a black ragged cloak. Large raised veins traverse the length of each arm. Black boots, nothing covering its head, and its hair falling to its shoulders. The same pale, waxy skin as the scouts. A grin of self-assurance, a finality. In one of its hands is a sword, long and shimmering, made of some kind of metal I've never seen here on Earth or in my visions of Lorien. And it appears to be pulsing, as if somehow alive. That's right. Yesterday we read that depending on their powers, the blades grow different colors. I begin to crawl away, the blood dripping down my neck. The beast at the school lets out another roar, and I reach for the low branches of a nearby tree and pull myself up. The soldier's 10 feet away. I grip both hands into fists. It motions the sword nonchalantly towards me, and something comes out of its tip, something that looks like a small dagger. I watch the dagger twist in an arc, leaving its straight trail behind like a smoke from a plane. The light casts a spell that I can't look away from. A flash of bright light devours everything, the world dimming away into a soundless void. No walls, no sound, no floor, no ceiling. Very slowly, the shapes of things return. The trees standing like ancient effigies, whispering to the world that once was in some alternate realm where only shadows reside. I reach out and I feel the nearest tree, the only touch of gray in an otherwise white world. My hand goes through it, and for the moment, the tree shimmers as if it were liquid. I take a deep breath. When I exhale, the pain returns to the gash on my back and on the back of my head, and the tears run down. And the tears down my arms and body from the James House fire. Tears down my arms. Sorry. A sound of dripping water comes from everywhere. Slowly, the soldier takes form. 20 or 30 feet away, giant-like. We take each other in, the sword glowing more brightly in this new world. Its eyes narrow and my hands again clench into fists. I've lifted objects far heavier than it. I've split trees and I've caused destruction. Surely I can match its strength with my own. I push everything that I feel into my core of my being, everything that I am and everything that I will be, until I feel as though I'm about to burst. Yeah! I yell and thrust my arms forward. The brute force leaves my body, raging towards the soldier. At the same time, it sweeps the sword across its body as though swatting a fly. The power deflects into the trees, which dance for a brief moment like the grin of a wheat field, waving in a light wind, and then they become still. It laughs at me, a deep guttural laugh meant to taunt. Its red eyes begin to glow, swirling as though lava-filled. It lifts its free hand, and I tense myself against the unknown. And without my knowing what has just happened, my throat is in its grip. The gap that had separated us closed in the blink of an eye. It lifts me one-handed, breathing with its mouth open so that I can smell the sour stench of its breath, the smell of decay. I thrash. I try to pry its fingers from around my throat, but they are like iron. And then it throws me. I land back 40 feet away. I stand and it charges, swinging the sword at my head, which I duck and counter by pushing it as hard as I can. It stumbles back but stays standing. I try to lift it with telekinesis, but nothing happens. In this alternate world, my powers are dimmed, almost ineffectual. The Magadorian has the advantage here. It smiles at my futility and raises the sword with both hands. The sword comes alive, turning from shivering silver into ice blue. Blue flames lick across the blade, a sword that glows with power, just as Six had talked about. It swings the sword in my direction, and another dagger comes flying off the tip, straight at me. This I can do, I think. All the hours in the backyard with Henry preparing for this very thing. Always the knives, more or less the same as the dagger. Did Henry know they would use them? Certainly, though in my flashbacks of the invasion, I had never seen them. But I had never seen these creatures either. They were different on Lorien, not quite as sinister looking. On the day of the invasion, they looked sickly and starved. Is it Earth's fault for this convalescence? Have the resources here caused them to grow stronger and healthier? The dagger literally screams as it rages towards me. It grows and becomes consumed in flames. Just when I am about to deflect, it explodes into a fireball, and the flame jumps to me. I'm trapped within it, consumed in a perfect sphere of fire. Anyone else would burn, but not me, and somehow it causes my strength to return. I am able to breathe. Without the soldier knowing it, it has made me stronger. Now it's my turn to smile at its own futility. Is this all you've got? I yell. Its face turns into rage. It defiantly reaches one hand over its shoulder and returns with a cannon-like gun that begins conforming to its body. The gun wrapping around its forearm, the arm and the gun becoming one and the same. I pull the knife from my back pocket, the knife that I grabbed from home before returning to school. Small, ineffectual, but better than nothing. I open the blade and charge. The ball of fire charges with me. The soldier squares its body and it brings down the sword with force. I deflect it with the pocket knife, but the weight of the sword snaps the blade in two. I drop the remaining pieces and I swing as hard as I can. My fist slams into the soldier's gut. It doubles over but comes right back up and it swings the sword again. I duck beneath the blade at the last second. It singes the hair on the top of my head. Right behind the sword comes the cannon. No time to react. It hits me in my shoulder and I grunt and fall backwards. The soldier regroups and points the cannon in the air. I'm confounded at first. The gray from the trees is being pulled away and sucked into the gun. Then I understand. The gun. It needs to be charged before it can be fired. Needs to steal Earth's essence in order to be used. The gray in the trees isn't shadow. The gray is the life of the trees at its most elemental level. And now those lives are being stolen, consumed by the Magadorians. A race of aliens that depleted their planet's resources in the quest for advancement, now doing the same thing here. That is the reason they attacked Lorien, the same reason they will attack Earth. One by one, the trees fall and crumble into heaps of ash. The gun glows brighter and brighter, so bright that it hurts my eyes to look at it. No time to spare. I charge. It keeps the gun pointed at the sky and swings the sword. I duck and I plow straight into it. Its body tenses and writhes in agony. The fire surrounding me burns it where it stands, but I've left myself open. It swings the blade feebly, not enough to cut me, but there is nothing I can do to prevent its fall. It hits me, and my body is hurled backwards, 50 feet as though I'd been struck by a bolt of lightning. I lie there, my body shaking with post-electrocution tremors. I lift my head. 30 piles of ash have fallen from the trees surrounding us. How many times will that allow him to fire? A slight wind kicks up and the ash begins filtering across the empty space between us. The moon returns. The moon returns. This world to which has brought me is beginning to fail. It knows it. The gun is ready. I wrestle myself up from the ground, sitting a couple feet away, still glowing. It's one of the daggers. I wrestle myself up from the ground. Sitting a couple feet away, still glowing, is one of the daggers that fired at me. I picked it up. It lowers the cannon and aims. The white surrounding us is beginning to dim, color returning. Then the cannon fires, a bright flash of light containing the ghoulish forms of everyone I've ever known. Henry, Sam, Bernie, Kosar, Sarah, all of them dead in this alternate realm, and the light so bright that they are all I can see, trying to take me with them, raging forward in a ball of energy growing as it nears. I try to deflect the blast, but it's too strong. The white makes it as far as the fiery enclosure, and when the two touch, an explosion erupts, and the power sends me backwards. I land with a thud. I take inventory. I am unharmed. The ball of fire has extinguished. Somehow it's absorbed the blast, but has saved me from what I am certain would have been death. Surely that is how the cannon works, the death of one thing for the death of another. The power of mind, the power of mind control, manipulation that plays on fear, possible through the destruction of the elements of the world. The scouts have learned to do this weekly with their minds. The soldiers rely on weapons that produce a much greater effect. I stand, the glowing knife still in my hand. The soldier pulls some sort of lever on the side of the cannon as though to reload it. I sprint towards it. When I come closer, I aim for its heart and I hurl the knife as hard as I can. It fires a second shot, a torpedo of orange raging its way. The certainty of a white death coming mine. They cross in midair without touching. Just when I expect that second shot to hit, to bring upon that death, something else happens. The knife strikes first. The world vanishes, the shadow fades, and the cold and the dark return as though they never left. A vertiginous transition. I take a step backwards and fall. My eyes adjust to the dearth of light. I fix them on the dark figure of soldier hovering over me. The cannon blast didn't travel with us. The glowing knife did. The blade sunk deeply into its heart, the handle pulsating orange beneath the moonlight overhead. The soldier staggers, and then the knife is sucked into deeper and disappears. It grunts. Spurts of black blood pump from the open wound. Its eyes go blank. They roll back in its head. It falls to the ground, lies motionless, and then explodes into a cloud of ash that covers my shoes. A soldier. I killed my first. May it not be the last. Something about being in the alternate realm has weakened me. I place my hand on a nearby tree to steady myself and to catch my breath. Only the tree is no longer there. I look around. All the trees surrounding us have collapsed into heaps of ash just as they did in the other realm, just as the Magadorians do when they die. I hear the roar of the beast and I look up to see how much of the school is left standing. But instead of the school, there is something else. 15 feet away, standing tall with a sword in one hand and a similar looking cannon in another. The cannon is aimed at my heart. A cannon that has already been charged, glowing with power. Another soldier. I don't think I have the strength to fight this one as I did the last. There is nothing I can throw. The gap between us is too great to charge before it fires. Then its arms twitches and the sound of a gunshot rings through the air. My body instinctively jerks, expecting the cannon to rip me in half. But I'm fine. I'm unharmed. I look up confused, and there, in the soldier's forehead, is a hole the size of a quarter spurting its hideous blood. Then it drops and disintegrates. That's for my dad, I hear behind me. I turn. Sam is holding a silver pistol in his right hand. I smile at him. He lowers the gun. They passed right through the center of town. He says, I knew it was them as soon as I saw the trailer. I try to catch my breath, staring in awe at Sam's figure. Just moments before, in the first soldier's blast, he was the decaying corpse sprung from hell to take me away. And now he just saved me. You okay, he asks. I nod. Where did you just come from? I followed them in my dad's truck after they passed my house. I pulled in 15 minutes ago and got swarmed by the ones that were already here. So I left and I parked it in the field a mile away, and I walked through the woods. The second set of lights we had seen from the window of the school came from Sam's truck. I open my mouth to respond, but a clap of thunder shakes the sky. Another storm begins to brew, and relief courses through me that Six is still alive. A bolt of lightning cuts the sky, and clouds begin rushing in from all directions, being pulled together in one giant mass. And even greater darkness falls, followed by a rain so heavy that I have to squint to see Sam 5 feet away from me. The school is blotted out. And then a great bolt of lightning strikes, and everything brightens for a split second. And I see that the beast has been hit. An agonizing roar follows. I have to get to the school, I yell. Mark and Sarah are somewhere inside. If you're going, then I'm going, he yells back over the rumble of the storm. We take no more than 5 steps before the wind comes howling, pushing us back. Torrential rain stinging our faces. We're soaked, shivering and cold. But I'm shivering when I know But if I'm shivering, then I know I'm alive. Sam drops to a knee, then lies on his stomach to keep from being blown backwards. I do the same. Through squinted eyes, I look into the clouds, heavy, dark, ominous, swirling in small, concentric circles, and in the center, I'm trying mightily to reach, a face begins to form. It's an old, weathered face, bearded, tranquil looking, as though it sleeps. A face that looks older than Earth itself. The clouds begin to lower, slowly nearing the surface and consuming everything. Everything darkening. A dark so deep and impenetrable that it's hard to imagine that somewhere, anywhere, a sun still exists. Another roar, a roar of anger and doom. I try to stand, but am quickly knocked back down. The wind too great. The face, it's coming alive and awakening. The eyes opening, the face upturned into a grimace. Is it sixth creation? The face becomes a look of rage itself, a look of revenge. Coming down fast, everything seems to hang in the balance. And then the mouth opens, hungry, its lips curling to show teeth, its eyes squinted in what can only be described as pure malice, a complete and utter wrath. And then the face touches down and a sonic blast shakes the ground, an explosion reaching out over the school, everything illuminated in red, orange, and yellow. I thrust backwards. Trees break in half. The ground rumbles. I land with a thud, branches, mud falling on top of me. My ears ring as they've never rung before, a boom so loud that it must have been heard 50 miles away. And then the rain stops and everything falls silent. I lie in the mud listening to the beat of my heart. The clouds clear away, revealing a hanging moon. Not a single gust of wind. I look around, but don't see Sam. I yell for him, but no response. I yearn to hear something, anything, another roar, Henry's shotgun, but there is nothing. I pull myself off the forest floor, wipe away the mud and twigs as best I can. I exit the woods for the second time. The stars have reappeared. A million of them twinkling high in the night sky. Is it over? Have we won? Or is it just a lull in the action? The school, I think. I have to get to the school. I take one step forward, and that's when I hear it. Another roar coming from within the woods behind me. Sound returns. 3 consecutive gunshots ring through the night, echoing, so I have no idea from which direction they have come. I hope with everything inside of me that they are from Henry's shotgun, that he is still alive, still fighting. The ground begins to shake. The beast is on the run, coming for me. No mistaking it now. Trees broken and uprooted behind me. They don't seem to slow it down at all. In this one, even bigger than the other, I don't care to find out. I take off running from the school, but then realize that's the absolute worst place I should go. Sarah and Mark are still there, still hiding. Or at least I hope they are. Everything returns to the way it was before the storm. The shadows forming, looming. Scouts, soldiers. I veer to the right and sprint along the tree-lined path that leads to the football field. The beast hot on my trail. Can I really expect to outrun it? If I can make it to the woods beyond the field, maybe I can. I know those woods, the woods that lead to our house. Within them, I'll have the home field advantage. I look around and I see the figures of Magadorians in the schoolyard. There are too many of them. We're greatly outnumbered. Did we ever really believe we could win? A dagger flies by me, a flash of red missing my face by mere inches. It sticks into the trunk of the tree beside me, and the tree ignites in flame. Another roar. The beast is keeping pace. Which of us has the greater endurance? I enter the stadium, sprint straight across the 50-yard line, and pass through the visiting team's side. Another knife whizzes by me, a blue one this time. The woods are near, and when I finally sprint into them, a smile forms on my face. I've led it away from the others. If for everyone else is safe, then I've done my job. Then, just when I catch a sense of triumph, just when a sense of triumph booms within me, the third dagger strikes. I cry out. I fall face first into the mud. I can feel the dagger between my shoulder blades, a pain so sharp that it paralyzes me. I try to reach to pull it free, but it's up too high. It feels as though it's moving, digging itself deeper. The pain is spreading as if I've been poisoned. On my stomach, in agony, I can't pull it free with telekinesis. My power is somehow failing me. I begin dragging myself forward, and one of the soldiers, or maybe it's a scout, I can't tell which, places a foot on my back, reaches down and pulls the knife free. I grunt. The knife is gone, but the pain stays. It takes its foot off me, but I still feel its presence, and I wrestle myself onto my back to face it. Another soldier, standing tall and smiling with hatred. The same look as the one before, the same type of sword. The dagger that was in my back twists in its grip. That is what I felt, the blade turning while embedding in my flesh. I lift a hand toward the soldier to move it, but I know it's in vain. I can't focus. Everything blurry. The soldier raises its sword in the air. The blade tastes death, starting to grow in the night sky behind it. I'm gone, I think. Nothing I can do. I look into its eyes. 10 years on the run, and this is how easily it ends, how quietly. But behind it lurks something else, something far more menacing than a million soldiers with a million swords. Teeth, every bit as long as the soldier is tall. Teeth growing white in the mouth, too small to hold them. The beast with its evil's eyes hovering over us. A sharp intake of breath catches in my throat, and my eyes open wide in terror. It'll take us both out, I think. The soldier is oblivious. It tenses and grimaces at me and starts to bring the sword down to split me in two. But it's too slow, and the beast strikes first. Its jaws clamping down on it like a bear trap. The bite doesn't stop until the beast's teeth come together. The soldier's body cut cleanly in half, just below the hips, leaving nothing behind it but two stumps still stand. The hips, leaving nothing behind but two stumps still standing. The beast chews twice and swallows. The soldier's legs fall hollowly to the ground, one dropping to the right, one to the left, and then they quickly disintegrate. It takes every ounce of strength I have to reach out and grab the dagger that has fallen at my feet. I tuck it into the waistband of my jeans and begin crawling away. I feel the beast hovering over me, feel its breath under the nape on my neck. The smell of death and rotting meat. I enter a small clearing. I expect the beast's wrath to fall any second, except its teeth and claws to rip into me and rip me to shreds. I pull myself forward until I go no more, my back against the oak tree. The beast stands in the very center of the clearing, 30 feet away from me. I look at it fully for the first time, a looming figure, hazing in the dark and cold of the night. Taller and bigger than the beast at the school, 40 feet, standing upright on two hind legs, thick gray skin stretched tightly over slabs of bulging muscle. Its neck, its head, slopes so that the lower jaw protrudes farther out than its upper. A set of fangs points towards the sky, another set points towards the ground, dripping blood and drooling. Long, thick arms hang a foot or two above the ground, even while the beast stands straight, giving it the appearance of slightly leaning forward. Yellow eyes, round discs as the sides of its head that pulsate with the beating of its heart, the only side that it has any sort of heart at all. It leans forward and it brings its left hand to the ground, a hand complete with stubby short fingers with claws like a raptor, claws meant to rip apart anything they touch. It sniffs me and it roars, an ear-splitting roar that should have pushed me backwards if I weren't already against the tree. Ah! Its mouth opens, showing what must be 50 other teeth, each one every bit sharp as the next. Its free hand thrusts away from its side and splits in half every tree it strikes, 10, 15 of them. No more running, no more fighting. Blood from the knife wound runs down my back. My hands and legs are both shaking. The dagger is still tucked into my waistband and of my jeans. But what's the point in grabbing it? What faith is there in a 4-inch blade against a 40-foot tall beast? It would be the equivalent of a splinter. It'll only make it angrier. My only hope is to bleed to death before I am killed and eaten. I close my eyes and I accept death. My lights are off and I don't want to see what is about to happen. I hear movement behind me. I open my eyes. One of the Magadorians must be moving in for a closer look. I think at first, but I know immediately that I am wrong. There is something familiar about the lopping gate, something I recognize in the sound of its breathing. And then he enters the clearing. Bernie Kosar. I smile, but the smile quickly fades. If I am doomed, there is no point in him dying too. No, Bernie Kosar, you can't be here. You need to leave, and you need to run like the wind. Get as far away of here, as far away of here as you can. Pretend you just finished our early morning jog to school, and that it's time for you to return home. He looks at me as he walks up. I am here, he seems to say. I am here, and I will stand with you. No, I say aloud. He stops long enough to give my hand a reassuring lick. He looks up at me with his big brown eyes. Get away, John, I hear in my mind. Crawl if you have to, but get away now. The blood loss has made me delusional. Bernie seems to be communicating with me. Is Bernie Kosar even here, or am I imagining it? He stands in front of me as though in protection. He begins to growl low at first, but it grows to a growl every bit as ferocious as the beast's own roar. The beast fixates on Bernie Kosar. A stare down. Bernie Kosar's hair is raised down the center of its back, its tan ears pinned to its head. His loyalty, his bravery very nearly make me weep. He's 100 times smaller than the beast, yet he stands tall, vowing to fight. One quick strike from the beast, and he's done. I reach my hand out to Bernie Kosar. I wish I could stand and grab him and get away. His growls are so fierce that his whole body shakes, tremors coursing through him. And then something begins to happen. Bernie Kosar begins to grow. We're doing okay. How are we doing on pages? We're doing good. Let's read a little more. After all this time, only now do I understand. The morning runs when I would run too fast for him to keep pace. He would disappear into the woods, reappear seconds later in front of me. Six tried to tell me. She looked at him, and she knew immediately. On those runs, Bernie Kosar went into the woods to change himself, to turn himself into a bird. The way he would rush outside each morning, nose to the ground, patrolling the yard, protecting me and Henry, looking for signs of the Magadorians. The gecko in Florida, the gecko that used to watch from the wall while I ate breakfast. How long has it been with us? The chimera. The ones I watched being loaded into the rocket. Did they make it to Earth after all? Bernie Kosar begins to grow. He tells me to run. I can communicate with him. No, that's not all. I can communicate with all animals. Another legacy. It started with the deer in Florida on the day that we left. The shudder that ran up my spine as it passed something along to me, some feeling. I attribute it to the sadness of our leaving, but I was wrong. Mark James's dogs, the cows I passed on my morning runs, the same thing. I feel like such a fool to discover it only now. So blatantly obvious right in front of my face. Another of Henry's adages. Those things that are most obvious are the very things we're most likely to overlook. But Henry knew. That is why he said to Six. That's why he said no to Six when she tried to tell me. Bernie Kosar is done growing. His hair has fallen away, replaced by oblong scales. He looks like a dragon, but without the wings. His body is thick with muscles, jagged teeth, and claws. Horns that curl like a ram's, thicker than a beast, but far shorter. looking every bit as menacing. Two giants on opposite sides of the clearing, roaring at one another. Run, he tells me. I try to tell him that I can't. I don't know if he understands me. You can, he says, you must. The beast swings, a hammer swing that starts in the clouds and pours down with brutality. Bernie Kosar blocks it with its horns, then charges before the beast can swing again. A colossal collision in the very center of the clearing. Bernie Kosar thrusts up, sinks his teeth into the beast's side. The beast knocks him back. Both of them are so quick that it defies all logic. Bleeding gashes already down the sides of each. I watch with my back against the tree. I try to help, but my telekinesis is failing me. Blood still pours down my back. My limbs feel heavy, as though my blood is turned to lead. I can feel myself fading. The beast is still upright, on two legs, while Bernie Kosar must fight on four. The beast makes a charge, and Bernie Kosar lowers his head. They smash into one another, crashing through the trees on my right side. Somehow the beast ends up on the top. It sinks its teeth in deep in Bernie Kosar's throat. It thrashes, trying to tear his throat out. Bernie Kosar twists under the beast's bite, but he can't shake free. He tears at the beast's hide with his paws, and the beast doesn't let go. Then a reach hands out behind me and grabs my arm. I try to push away, but I'm incapable of even doing that. Bernie Kosar's eyes are closed tightly. He is straining under the beast's jaws, his throat constricted, unable to breathe. No, I yell. Come on, the voice yells behind me. We need to get out of here. The dog, I say, not comprehending whose voice it is. The dog. Bernie Kosar is being bitten and choked, about to die, and there isn't a damn thing I can do about it. I won't be far behind. I would sacrifice my own life for his. I scream out. Bernie Kosar twists his head around and he looks at me, his face scrunched tightly in pain and agony, and the outcoming death he must feel. We have to go, the voice behind me yells, the hand pulling me from the forest floor. Bernie Kosar's eyes stay fixed on me. Go, he says. Get out of here now while you can. There isn't much time. I somehow reach my feet, dizzy, the world cast in a haze around me. Only Bernie Kosar's eyes remain clear, eyes that scream help, even while his thoughts say otherwise. We have to go, the voice yells again. I don't turn to face it, but I know whose it is. Mark James, no longer hiding in the school, trying to save me from the clash. His being here must mean that Sarah is okay, and for a brief moment, I allow myself to be relieved. But then the relief vanishes as quickly as it came. In this exact moment, only one thing matters. Bernie Kosar, on his side, looking at me with glassy eyes. He saved me. It's my turn to save him. Mark reaches his hand across my chest and begins pulling me backwards. Out of the clearing, away from the fight, I twist myself free. Bernie Kosar's eyes slowly begin to close. He's fading, I think. I want to watch you die, I tell him. I won't watch you die, I tell him. I'm willing to watch many things in this world, but I'll be damned if I watch you die. There's no response. The beast's bite hardens. It can sense that death is near. I take one wobbly step and I pull the dagger from my waistband of my jeans. I close my fingers tightly around it and it comes alive and it starts to glow. I'll never be able to hit the beast by throwing the dagger, and my legacies have all but vanished. An easy decision, no choice but to charge. One deep, shaky breath, I rock my body backwards, everything tensing through the ache of exhaustion. Not an inch anywhere on me that doesn't feel some sort of pain. No, Mark yells behind me. I lunge forward and I sprint for the beast. The beast's eyes are closed, jaws clamped tightly around Bernie Kosar's throat, so that the moonlight glows in the pools of blood around it. 30 feet away, then 20. The beast's eyes snap open at the exact moment I jump. Yellow eyes that are twisted in rage the second they focus upon me, sailing through the air towards them. Dagger in both hands, held high over my head as though in some heroic dream I never want to wake from. The beast lets go of Bernie Kosar's throat and it moves to bite. But surely it knows that it has sensed me too late. The blade of the dagger glows in anticipation, and I jam it deeply into the eye of the beast. A liquid ooze immediately bursts out. The beast lets out a blood-curdling scream so loud that it's hard to imagine the dead being able to sleep through it. I fall back on my butt. I fall flat on my back. I lift my head and I watch the beast totter over me. It tries in vain to pull the dagger from its eyes, but its hands are too big and the dagger is too small. The Magadorian weapons function in some way that I don't think I ever understand. Because of the mystical gateways between the realms, the dagger is no different. The black of the night rushes into the eye of the beast like a vortex funnel cloud or a tornado of death. The beast falls silent as the last of the great black cloud enters its skull, and the dagger is sucked in with it. The beast's arms fall limply on its side. Its hands begin to shake, a violent shake that reverberates through the entirety of its massive body. When the convulsion ends, the beast hunches over and then falls to the ground with its back against the trees, sitting, but yet still towering some 25 feet over me. Everything silent, hanging in anticipation of what is to come. A gun fires very close so that my ears ring for seconds afterward. The beast takes a great breath. The beast takes a great breath and holds it in as though in meditation, and suddenly its head explodes, raining down pieces of brain and flesh and skull over everything, all of which quickly turns to ash and dust. Oh, one page and we're done with the chapter. The woods fall silent. I turn my head and I look at Bernie Kosar, who still lies motionless on his side, his eyes closed. I can't tell if he's alive or not. As I look at him, he begins to change again, shrinking down to his normal side, while remaining lifeless. I hear the sound of crunching leaves and snapping twigs nearby. It takes all the strength I have just to lift my head and inch off the ground. I open my ears and peer up into the haze of night, expecting to see Mark James. But it's not him standing over me. My breath catches in my throat, a looming figure, indistinct with the moon's light hovering just over it. Then he takes one step forward, blotting out the moon, and my eyes widen in anticipation and dread. Roar! Oh no! All right, peeps. 2 chapters left. We went a little late tonight, so what? All right. Well, we got 28 pages and we're done, son, as they say. The book is a great book. The whole series really is, and I hope you guys stay with me and read book 2. And I encourage you to go and read the rest of the books, on your own. They really are a super, just this awesome coming of age story. So, all right, let's do the news quick. It's Friday night, and I'm sure everybody has some Netflix shows to go binge watch. So the governor today seemed pretty happy, isn't the right word, but encouraged that things are still moving in the right direction. Only 40, I keep saying that. I got to stop that. 42 New Yorkers have died, 1,075 new cases. Hospitalizations are going down, right? However, ladies and gentlemen, it was kind of a controversial day, without a doubt, across the country. And, I talked to my friends in England, and they thought that it was rather, some words by the president, rather in poor taste. But let's stick to New York. So things are opening, things are moving, restaurants are opening, and, just everything seems to be opening up, slow, but steady, I guess you could say. And The governor today signed an executive order saying that students that have special needs in regards to their learning plans have to get in school, summer school, and if we are, I guess, not back in school in the fall, that they need to be taught in school. So summer school it had already been announced that summer school was going to go virtual. But now we have this new executive order, which I don't know how they're going to deal with that. Like, when you have students in summer school, and I've taught summer school quite a few years, quite a few summers, you have, generally speaking, you have two different types of students. Number one, you have students that have a tough time. They have a tough time with the content, and a lot of times they have a tough time with the regents. So why are they in summer school? Well, they're in summer school mostly because, or I should say typically because they failed the regents. And they're in school to try to recapture that grade and pass the regents. So, those are usually students that, you would say are on, I guess, the lower end of, strengths in regards to academics. It doesn't mean they're bad kids. It just means that, learning in the traditional setting, it might not necessarily be, what their strongest suit personally. So the other kid that you have, the other typical kid you have in summer school is the kid that never shows up. So for instance, last year when I taught U.S. history, not this year, but last year, I had 2 classes of juniors, 58 students. Yes, 58 students. 4 students failed the regents. Okay, 4 students failed the regents. 4 students failed the class. Those 4 students failed the class. So the 4 students that failed the class, 1 decided to not show up for the regents. So that person failed. Okay. The other 3 people showed for the regents and took it. But of those 3 people, all 3 of them had over 40 absences for the year. So all 4 of those students came to summer school. Of the 4 students that came to summer school, 3 stayed in summer school. All 3 of them passed the regents in summer school. 2 of the students got mastery, meaning they got over 85. So, you've got those 2 different types of students. So I don't know. I think the real issue is going to be, where are we going to put these students and how are we going to pay them? How are we going to pay all these people that are going to probably be one-on-one? It's going to be tough. It's going to be real tough. So one of the things that happened today was that President Trump announced, so unemployment has actually gone down a little bit. Not a lot, but it's gone down a little bit. And a lot of people are kind of like, well, wait a minute, how'd that happen? Well, I have a theory, and I think that probably in the not so near future, or not so distant future, we are going to find out that I think that I'm right on this. I think that a lot of businesses opened up, and a lot of people just started getting the ball rolling again without permission. And that a lot of people went back to work without things really being okayed, and people being told that they can go back to work. But the big kind of, I don't know how I even want to put it, but the big kind of faux pas today by the president is that the president made an announcement and he said, I bet that George Floyd is up in heaven looking down at us, and he's proud of us and the unemployment numbers. So, this made worldwide news, that the president said, well, this guy that died, he's probably proud of us. He's probably looking down on us, and he's proud that unemployment has gone down. So, yeah. Another one of the former Joint Chiefs came out today, and he said, I'm glad I'm no longer in the military, and I have to advise President Trump. And it seems like, I think it feels almost like a political tidal wave, that people are really starting to bail on the Donald. I think that, as the election moves closer, you're going to see people rally behind him. But I'm really starting to wonder about, I don't know that this is going to be a close election. I had really thought for a while that it was going to be. And I think if things continue to move in this direction, I'm not so sure. One of the things that, is we're not through the storm yet with COVID. And one of the things that we know is that, yes, in New York State, things are better. New Jersey, things are a little better. Massachusetts, things are a little bit better. But the rate of increase of people getting the coronavirus is actually the highest it's been since this all started. And it's the West and the South where things are starting to really rip through the country. So the rate of coronavirus cases is skyrocketing, and it's higher than it's ever been. But that's in other parts of the country. So fingers crossed that we get through it quick enough, but I don't know. I just don't know right now. I think it's going to be a while for the entire country. But I hope that we are through the worst parts of it. So a couple other things of importance. Or is there? Oh, so I guess that, two things. A police chief or maybe not a chief, but like a police. Oh my goodness, too much ginger ale. I think maybe it was a police chief, but not the top chief. Was at a riot or a protest. It was not a riot. And he apparently hit, and this was outside of Philadelphia, apparently hit a protester and cracked his skull open. And he's being fired and then and arrested. And then two police officers in Buffalo shoved a 73-year-old man to the ground, not even around protesters, and really, really did some damage to him. And they were let go, those two police officers. And apparently, as a result, 57 police officers resigned the riot squad. So they didn't quit being police officers, but they said, okay, forget it. We're not going to be a part of this kind of special action squad because people are doing their jobs. And yes, people get hurt. Protesters are going to get hurt, but they were doing their job. So I guess it's a matter of, look at the videotape, a 73-year-old man. I watched it. I don't know. Go take a look and judge it for yourself. But the country and police, the relationship that people have with police, my friends, is changing. And I do think that there are for every one police officer that's bad, I think that there's probably 99 that are real good. And it's that one bad one, just like one teacher that, doesn't do their job well, or one fireman, or one this or one that they just, they abuse their job, they abuse their power. And and it makes it tough for everybody else. And I think that's in every single profession. So and then the other thing is David Soares, the Albany County District Attorney, and the Albany police chief today met and are calling for an end to gun violence in Albany. It's skyrocketing. Gun violence in Albany. Remember, we said that there was the 72 shootings in 10 days. That's unbelievable, right? That's unbelievable. All right, so this day in history, not a sexy day. Excuse me, I guess in history. In 1933, and this is something we talked a little bit about just as we got into leaving school, we were talking about the gold standard, and we were talking about the Granger movement and wanting to leave the gold standard, right? All of our money used to be backed by gold. There was gold somewhere. So if you had a dollar note, somewhere there was a dollar worth of gold. And in 1933, FDR, on this day in 1933, FDR pulled us off that gold standard because he wanted to monkey with the economy a little bit. And he wanted to kind of strengthen the dollar and inflate the power of the dollar. And it's not until 1971 where the government actually ordered people to turn in gold coins and any kind of gold currency. And then it's not until 1971, that Richard Nixon totally and completely removes us. He takes us from completely off backing our money with gold or anything, because the money remains backed. But in 1971, and at this time, the dollar is just really something that's the value of the dollar is based on confidence in the American economy. So on this day, not a lot of people know this, but June 5th, 1944 was supposed to be D-Day. But clouds and weather conditions knocked D-Day off. And, I've read a couple books about D-Day. And, if you think about that attack, everybody's probably seen some kind of movie or seen some kind of clip or whatever about all the soldiers landing on the beaches. And you say, well, when do you want to actually land on the beach, right? You're landing in on these crafts. When do you want the crafts to land on the beach? Do you want it to be at high tide so that the boats get farther up the beach so that the guys have less time to run or less area to run, distance to run, or therefore they're being shot at? Or do you want it to be at low tide? Do you want it to be when, so the boats themselves don't have to travel as far. The guys have to run longer, but they're going to be shot at more. And I think a lot of people say, well, high tide. High tide is the time. And it's actually not. It's low tide. It's actually low tide rising. Because what you don't want to have happen is if your boats are going in at high tide and they're hitting the beach, well, if you've been to the beach, the wave comes in, the waves come in, the waves come in, they come out, they come in, they come out. Well, if your boat goes into the beach and it's high tide, the next wave doesn't come in as far, or doesn't come in as powerful. So there's a greater chance of the boats being stuck if it's high tide. So what they wanted to actually do was to hit the beach. The boats wanted to hit the beach when it was low tide rising. So the boats, when they came in, dropped the guys off, then they could be lifted out, and then they could go back out, get more guys, and bring them back. But today was supposed to be the day. And D-Day, the D-Day operations actually begin June 5th because what happens is on the night of June 5th, paratroopers start dropping into France. The first soldiers to hit France are not the guys hitting the beach. It's paratroopers. And they start landing on the night of late in the night of June 5th. There's a lot of unbelievable. There's the Band of Brothers, that miniseries, which details, one of the units that fought on D-Day. So on this day in 1947, George Marshall signs the Marshall, doesn't sign, but puts forward to Congress and the president the Marshall Plan, an economic plan to support war-torn Europe and to keep the democracies and our allies. We want to keep them democracies and keep them our allies. And then the only other thing that I saw, we talked about last night, Bobby Kennedy had been shot. And it's on, and it was actually, and I was wrong. He wasn't shot June 4th. He was shot June 5th. I don't know what exactly it was, the website it was on, but I cross-checked it. And today is actually the day that he was assassinated. But on this day in 1973, the first female African-American mayor, Doris Davis, is elected mayor in Compton, California. So neat day in history. But yeah, digging around, I didn't find a ton of real juicy things to talk about. So anyways, my friends, June 5th, Friday, one more day. We are not stopping until we finish this book on Sunday night. What a great book. Yeah, let's see what we have. How many pages do we have here? Where is it? So we have, and that's one of the interesting things about this book too, is it actually has the first, they print the first two chapters of the next book in every one of these books. So we have 27 pages to read tomorrow night. Booyah! So, it's hot. It was a hot one today, guys. I think it's supposed to be a decent weekend. I'm going to try. The boys and I, my oldest is back. Kind of thought it was going to happen. He's going to be working. He's back to work on weekends. Not sure what he's doing tomorrow. I think he might be doing more hay. He did hay last weekend, but he is back working. And pretty soon my younger son is going to be working as school starts to come to an end. He's a little bit younger, so I think the younger guys. But in New York State, once you're 14, you're allowed to do farm work. So, and he's 6'3". He's actually taller and I don't want to say stronger, but he's a little bigger than my older son. But they're both in really good shape, and they're both going to be earning and burning this summer, which is great. So we got a week left. You guys have one more assignment to complete, and we call it a year. And, for those of you that are headed off to college, this is it, your last week of high school. Those of you that, are juniors, I'm really beginning to think, today I felt some hope. I think we're going to be back in school in the fall. I think it's going to be different. I think there's going to be some difference. But I do think that we are going to actually be in school. I really hope we are. For a while, I was like, man, I don't know if it might not be until January. Who knows when? And now with everything really starting to reopen, I guess it's on us. If we're smart, I think we'll be back in September. I really do. But we need to be smart. We, as a group of people in our community, in our state, we need to be smart. And I think if we are smart, everything will open in due time. And boy, I certainly, I was thinking about, especially you seniors, I really want you guys back. Yeah, I want you to start in college. You've been working a long time. You've been working hard. I want you guys in college in the fall. I don't want you to have to do your freshman year from a computer. And I don't want, you juniors now, I don't want you guys doing senior year by computer either. So, but anyways, my friends, I'm going to call it a night. I got a couple things to do that I'm hitting the hay. I will see everybody Sunday night to finish our third book. Wouldn't have thought after reading The Jungle together, but man, that was a tough one, but we made it. So our third book, I Am Number 4, almost in the books. Keep running the marathon. Don't sprint. We will get there. We are getting there, my friends. Have a good night. Have a good weekend, and I'll see you guys on Sunday night.